So Google is about to get hit with one of the largest fines in the history of time. So we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about the healthcare bill. We're going to talk about the S&P 500, stock market winners and losers, Facebook, Warren Buffett, the Federal Reserve. We have a pretty big show today. So anyway, stay tuned. But first, we have to talk about the big news, Google's fine. So I was looking into this actually, and this fine, I'm going to talk about what it is, but they're getting hit with a $2.7 billion fine. In Europe, that is the largest in history, and I believe that is the third largest in history, period, in the world. I think JP Morgan got hit with a $13 billion fine because of the financial crisis in 2007, 2008, 2009, and BP Oil got fined about $4 billion for the massive oil spill. So this is going to be about the third or fourth biggest fine in the history of the world. So how will this affect Google? How will this affect you, everyone else? So let me backtrack a little bit here. So why are they getting fined? Why? What did they do that was so terrible? Okay, so let me back up here. This has been almost a decade-long investigation that the European Union has been essentially looking into. All their trades commissions have been looking into for about 10 years now. And what they found was that Google has been unfairly showing rivals' products in the Google search engine. What does that mean? So rivals, so for example, Google has, tons of products, millions of products that they sell, tens of millions of products that they sell. And so do their competitors. Their competitors have even more. And so what this is about is that when someone goes to Google, let's say they want to buy a phone. They're going to Google smartphone, okay? And so what comes up on the first page, this is just a generic example, what comes up on the first page is most likely going to be some sort of Google phone or something to do with Google that Google has an interest in. And so that's what this is about. And the competitors, the rivals that Google isn't working with and is competing against, they're on average on page 4, which is why when you Google anything about search engines or whatever, Yahoo doesn't show up, Bing doesn't show up. Things along those lines. So that's what this is about. It's an antitrust lawsuit, and it's pretty much just saying that Google is unfairly not showing their competitors. But I have two views on this, actually. I have two separate views on this. One, Google is such a big company that they own so many things that they are bullying the little guy. It's making it very tough for little guys to innovate and create their own products and sell them online because Google's just not showing them. They own the entire search engine market in North America and essentially the world. I know China has a different one, but they essentially own the search engine of the world, and so they're only showing their products first, or they're prioritizing their own products. And so all these little guys that are trying to start up and make their own phones, in that example, they cannot sell as much online because Google is just not showing them. And so there's two views on that. One, I'm the little guy, right? I'm the little guy, so I completely understand why this lawsuit is happening. However, Google is a public company. However, they are at the end of the day a company. They're not run by the government, and theoretically they should be able to do whatever they want. However, they, along with companies like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, they're running monopolies. And that's why they're getting hit with this, because most of the time, what they're doing shouldn't necessarily be illegal for the most part. I mean, if they weren't a big company, if they weren't worth $400 billion or $500 billion, they wouldn't be a lawsuit right now. I mean, think about me. I make these YouTube videos. I promote my own products through my YouTube videos, through social media and so on. I don't promote other people's products. If I were to, I would put them below mine most of the time, and that would be completely illegal. But once you get to the point where, I know Google's a different company, they're a search engine company, but they're at that point now where they essentially control an entire market. And so that's why they're getting sued. They're prioritizing their own products. Apparently that's illegal when you get to build a company that big. So I thought I would talk about that today, and we're going to talk about some of the financials here. So what does this do to Google as a whole? So I have some quotes here. The result of complying with the tougher rules, so they're forced to show their rivals at a near level of what they show their own products. That's what the changes have to be made are, along with the fine. So the result of the complying with the tougher rules could dent Google's revenue by 1.5%. which is pretty massive, and in their operating income by about 2.6%. Again, that's pretty big. So that would mean an additional hit of $1.35 billion to their revenue and more than $600 million in operating profit. So just some perspective, their revenue was $90.3 billion and had an operating income of $23 billion last year, $23.7 billion. So at the end of the day, this is, again, I don't know if you guys ever watched the movie, The Social Network, right? When there's the courtroom scene, Mark Zuckerberg's talking with whatever, I don't know if it was his lawyer or someone else in the room, and then they were talking about him getting hit with this giant fine from the Winklevoss twins. And then the girl, lawyer, counselor, whoever says, like, look, this is just going to be a speed bump for you. This is just a speed bump in the road. This could be one of the biggest companies in the world. And that's what this is for Google. This isn't even going to dent them. I mean, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit of $2.7 billion that they're going to have to pay in a fine. And it's not even going to affect their bottom line. Like, they're $90.3 billion in revenue. I mean, it's not really going to do too much. So anyways, I wanted to talk about that today. What do you guys think about this? And what do you guys think of the whole, when does a company get too big kind of thing? I know that there's been lots of monopolies in the history of time. We're going back to railroads and Cornelius Vanderbilt. You know, oil companies, J.D. Rockefeller, monopoly, had to disband his monopoly. Now we're seeing it in the tech space. We're seeing companies like Apple, Google, Amazon. Amazon's going to take over the world if they keep doing what they're doing. Companies are getting really big right now, and I'm a fan of capitalism. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Amazon as long as they're doing everything in an ethical way. I'm okay with them, you know, innovating for the entire world. As long as they're doing it in an ethical way, I'm fine with that. But what do you guys think with that? I mean, they're just a company that's trying to grow and innovate and change the world, and they are changing the world. So again, what's your opinion on that? Leave a comment down below. We're going to move on to the next topic here, which is just healthcare reform. So the markets were down in general today. I mean, pretty much every sector was down except for financials. We're going to get to that in a second here. But one of the big pieces of news for why the markets are down is because the healthcare reform in the United States, they decided to delay their vote, I believe. Delay their vote till July 4th. It was supposed to happen, today or tomorrow? It was supposed to go through. But it got delayed because 5 Republican senators said that they would vote against it and block it. It's not because they disagree with the bill as a whole. It's with the theory behind it. It's because it was poorly written and it was fundamentally flawed as a bill. They just need to change some wording, change some key points to sway those 5 people. So you need, I think it's 55, you need 50 votes, and 5 people disagreed with it. And so they just need to get a few more people on their side, essentially, to get this bill through. We don't know if it's going to happen by July 4th. Everyone was saying that's probably going to happen. But why did this affect the markets today? It's because, well, this healthcare bill is supposed to be pro-economic growth because you're taking away tax dollars from the Obamacare, pumping in hundreds of millions of dollars back into the economy, or just reallocating it somewhere else in the government. So that's why everyone was kind of bearish today. One of the big reasons. We're going to get to some of the other big reasons here. But that's what it was. It's because this healthcare, again, this is so stupid. Like, how does this one bill affect the entire market and affect billions of dollars worth of stock market trades? I mean, I don't really know. But what do you guys think about the healthcare bill? It's supposed to uninsure 22 million more Americans by 2026. But what do you guys think of that? I'm not going to get into that in this video because we have a lot of stuff I got to talk about and I don't want to make this video too long. What do you guys think about the healthcare bill? Leave a comment down below. And did you lose money today because of it? You might have. So we're going to move on to the S&P 500. This is just a quick thing I want to cover. So the S&P 500, there was an article that came out today that all the top hedge funds, especially some of the big investment funds, like there's one run by a guy called Oppenheimer. He runs like a $100 billion, multi-billion dollar hedge fund. And it came out today that all of the big hedge funds said that the S&P 500 essentially hit the end of year target this morning. It's June. The S&P 500 hit the I think the target was about 2,440 to 2,450 points. And so it did drop today. The S&P 500 did drop today. We'll get to that in a little bit here. But essentially, we have had 8% growth in the S&P 500 in the first 6 months of the year, which is absolutely insane. That should happen by at the end of every year, right? That should take 12 months, not 6. So what do you guys think? Do you think that this is a good thing? It's a bad thing? Did you guys make money from it? Do you think that it'll continue? That's the big question here. So they had some hedge fund guys on like CNBC today. They're saying, look, we're probably not going to have another 8% growth for the rest of the year, but we could see 2, 3, 4% for the rest of the year in the S&P 500. It's probably still going to be good as what they were saying, but not as good as it has been the first 6 months. So what do you guys think of that? I mean, earnings for a lot of companies have still been really good this year, for the most part. I'm just worried about the valuations of the companies are so high right now, especially in the tech sector. Actually, funny enough, the tech sector is going to experience the first loss if things just continue and our average for the next, I think, how many more days do we have left in June? 4 days? 3 or 4 days? Then the tech sector is going to have its first overall loss in any given month this year. So that's pretty big. So tech sector is cooling off. That's a good thing in my opinion. It needs to cool off. So S&P 500, unbelievable year. Congratulations. Another big piece of news today. Another big piece of news I wanted to talk about was Facebook. Because Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg just announced today on June 27th, 2017, they reached 2 billion users. 2 billion users. Essentially, about 30% of the world uses Facebook daily. On an active, daily, is it daily active users? Yeah, monthly active users. That's what it was. Monthly active users, 2 billion. So daily would probably be somewhere around 1 billion users in Facebook, which is maybe a little bit more than that, which is absolutely, 30% of the world uses this one website, this one app, at least once a month. Oh, I mean, think about this. Like just a few decades ago, 1 decade ago, about 15 years ago when I was a kid, internet, like I'd go into Neopets. Neopets was the big thing back then. There wasn't any Facebook. YouTube wasn't even a thing. Social media wasn't even a thing. I think MySpace was around. No, MySpace wasn't even around back then, 2003. So this is, it's shocking. I love it, but it's just shocking to see that 2 billion user number. Because Facebook's only been around since, 2007? It started taking off, 2007? And so it's only been around 10 years. It's been around 13 years it started getting created. But 10 years it's been essentially public, and 2 billion users. 200 million people every single year. Absolutely amazing. So some perspective here. Instagram, 700 million users. Oh, that's monthly active users. Sorry. And Twitter, 328 million monthly active users. Snapchat, about 166 daily active users. Their monthly would actually be closer to about 250 million. So again, this is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy world we're living in. About 3 billion people are using those 4 apps, which is absolutely insane. So we're going to move on to the next topic here. We have a lot of topics to cover today that I want to talk about. So I want to talk about Warren Buffett. This is just a topic of discussion I want to just mention with you guys, actually. So he was getting an interview today. This isn't new news, by the way. This isn't new news. I just want to mention it. So he was saying about how the problem with the economy right now is that all the rich people are having all the gains, which I completely agree with. Now, is that right? That's what I want to talk about with you guys. But all of the gains are being seen by the people, not even the 1%, but like the 0.01%, 0.0001%. They're seeing most of the gains in the economy in the world. And so I have an opinion on this and why this is, but I want to get to this Warren Buffett quote here. So if you go back to 1982, when Forbes put on their 400 list, their Forbes 400 list, those people had a total value, net worth of $93 billion. $93 billion. Now, they have today in 2017, they have 2.4 trillion. Okay? A multiple of 25 over the past, over the past 35 years, they've had a multiple of 25 for their net worth. Absolutely insane. So he said, this has been a prosperity that's been disproportionately rewarding the people on top. So why Why is this? That's because, well, yes, we are living in a capitalist system, which I approve of. I do approve of. There are flaws, but I approve of it. We're living in that kind of system where the more money you have, the more money you can make. Obviously, I've talked about that a bunch. Like, if you have $1 million to invest, you get 4%, you're going to make 40 grand a year. Okay? If you have $1,000 to invest, you invest at 4%, you're going to get $40 per year. Even if you have the exact same investment gains in terms of percentages, you're going to get rewarded more at the top. And if you get rewarded more at the top, you're going to have more money to invest. And it's a positive feedback loop we got here. That's what it is. And so, but here's the other thing too. I think that there's a big problem now is because we're seeing gigantic companies. We're seeing the death, like all those small businesses. Think about this. I was actually reading about this on Reddit. There's a shower thought, okay? So what department stores did to small businesses in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, Amazon, Google, Facebook, they are doing that to department stores. And so they are collecting all of this value just like department stores. I mean, think about Walmart. Walmart put a lot of small businesses out of business. And now we're kind of seeing that these days it's all going to just a few companies. Think about it. I was talking about in a recent video, Sears going out of business. Walmart, like sure, they're doing okay, but they're not doing too well. They're not doing too well compared to like an Amazon kind of thing. Kmart, they're going out of business. Target, they're not doing well. And all of this is not going to 3 or 4 giant internet companies. It's all going to Amazon. It's all going to Amazon. And so whoever owns Amazon, that's all their wealth is going to them, which is Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos says every single year he sells off about $1 billion to $2 billion worth of Amazon stock to put it into Blue Origin. But meanwhile, his net worth is going up every single year. His actual equity in Amazon's going up every single year, the value of his equity, which is absolutely insane to think about. So that's my opinion on this. I think that this globalization, the fact that one company can have a bunch of sub-businesses within it, now these days, like Amazon, think about all the stuff they're launching, Google, all the stuff they're launching. They're doing cars, they're doing search engine, they're doing YouTube, they're doing I don't know, the phones, right? They're doing those glasses. They're doing all the apps, all the Android apps and all that stuff, right? And, you know, back 50 years ago, 35 years ago, if you had one company that was, I don't know, a computer company, you sold the software, and maybe you sold some software and maybe some hardware, and that was it. You didn't do anything else. Meanwhile, look at what Microsoft's doing now. Software, hardware, everything on the internet, phones, whatever. They're branching out now into a giant tech company, and they're just taking over because all the little tech companies can't even compete anymore. There's no startup, new tech computer companies. There aren't any. Think about it. When is the last time there has been a small business computer company specifically? I'm not talking about a tech company. Computer company that's been able to compete with Microsoft, Apple, Google, whoever it may be. There aren't a lot out there. There aren't a lot. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's all the money's just going to the top, and a lot of the middle businesses are being cut out right now. And that's why one of the reasons why the rich are getting richer, poor are getting poorer. Because there aren't a lot of middle class businesses right now. So anyways, that's my opinion on that. What do you guys think about it? Am I wrong on this? Am I right on this? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next topic here. Janet Yellen, the head of the Federal Reserve right now, so she was saying in like a conference interview type thing, so she said a few things here which were actually moving the markets a little bit here. Another negative thing came out today was that, well, pretty much she said that the Federal Reserve is even more hawkish on the market right now. Hawkish meaning that they're going to keep an eye on it. They're not bullish on it or bearish on it. They're just saying, well, things are kind of a little bit weird right now. We don't know if there's going to be a big downturn coming or a big uptick coming. Probably not a big uptick. So we're just going to keep an eye on it, and we're a little bit worried, but we also have a lot of confidence too. And so that moved the markets down because she didn't flat out say like, oh, I love this market right now. Unemployment's at an all-time low, and yet she doesn't trust the economy is what she's saying, which is what I agree with too. So she said that today, that moved the markets, but she also said a few more things here which are more conversation topics that I want to talk about with you guys. So she said flat out, there won't be another financial crisis in her lifetime. Now, that could mean a few things. In our lifetime, she said. So pretty much that means that she doesn't expect there to be another financial crisis in the next few decades. And then there was also one thing more I want to mention before I actually elaborate on that. So she said that the banks last week passed the first round of the Federal Reserve stress test. So stress test saying could the banks handle downturns in the economy? So they measured here how would they perform under adverse conditions like a 10% unemployment rate and turbulence in commercial real estate, corporate debt, and so on. And they said that this is the best the banks have been in a long time in terms of their ability to deal with downturns in the economy, which is a good thing. If that's true, that's a good thing. However, do you guys really think that there won't be another financial crisis in the next few decades? It's interesting, especially since Trump's rolling back all the regulations again. The next recession may not be from the financial sector, but it may come from somewhere else. And then maybe in a decade, 2 decades, we're going to see another financial crisis. I don't know. We could see one coming up next. What do you guys think? Do you think that there will be a recession, and do you think the financial institutions will be responsible for it? Interesting point here. So we're going to move on to, I guess, one more thing I want to touch on, I guess, along the lines of that is that report came out today. Consumer confidence is at an all-time high since 2007. Yeah. That's not a good thing. When consumer confidence is at an all-time high, they usually take out more debt. It usually over-leverages themselves, and that's usually what leads to a recession. So what do you guys think of that? Where do you think we are in this economic cycle? I think that we are at the tail end. I've always said the next recession is going to hit by the end of 2018. I've been saying that. I made a video about that. The next recession by 2017, 2018, I might be wrong. Who knows? I'm open to being wrong. I hope that there isn't a recession in the next few months, but maybe I could take advantage of that though. So what do you guys think? Consumer confidence is at an all-time high. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Anyways, we're going to move on here to China. Next thing I want to talk about is China, actually. So this isn't new news. It's not new news, but the mainstream media picked up on it today for some reason. So there's a bunch of articles written today about China might be entering the financial crisis right now. They might be the key. They might be the popping of the balloon of the next global financial crisis. It might not be the United States. It might be China. So why is this? Because the reports were coming out today. Corporate debt's at an all-time high. Household debt's at an all-time high. Just debt in general, all-time high. Financial institutions have gained so much wealth over the past decade. They're now worth $4 trillion. So in terms of percentages, corporate debt's at 166% of GDP in China. Household debt is worth 44% of the GDP in China. So debt is just ballooning from a country that didn't take on debt decades ago. They're taking on so much now, and financial institutions are ballooning up. And just reports came out today saying that they could be the bubble bursting, which would hurt a ton of countries. It may not hurt the United States. It would hurt the United States. It would hurt every country that has to do with China. But it would hurt mainly European countries, in my mind, who invest a ton in China. And it would hit Canada, too. I mean, Canada has a lot of just Chinese investors. And so if you take those out of Canada, we're going to see some sort of real estate crash or some sort of Canadian investment crash if this were to happen in China. So that could be good for me. If the U.S. economy stays strong, I get paid in U.S. dollars for the most part, apart from some consulting work that I do. So most of my money comes from the American dollar. Some comes from the Canadian dollar. My investments are largely Canadian, American. So it wouldn't really hurt me too much if this China thing were to go down the drain. But worldwide investors, they would get hurt too. So what do you guys think about China's economy right now? I mean, I've been saying... I was on a live stream. I remember this on a live stream in like 2014, 2015, and China was having like 4, 5, 6, 7% growth, economic growth at that time. And I remember all my friends on the live stream, all 3 of them were saying, "Well, China's the ideal economy. They're having all this growth, all their infrastructure is just doing so well." I remember saying flat out, "This isn't sustainable. This is not sustainable. This is how bubbles form." And they didn't believe me. Now, China's economy hasn't been too well in the past few years. Hasn't been amazing. Hasn't been terrible. It's been kind of in between, up and down for the most parts. But, I mean, I've been kind of bearish on the Chinese economy in the past few years. Have you guys been? What do you guys think about that? I'm not a big investor in China because I think that they're like a developed country. They're so weird. I just stay away from them for the most part because I just don't trust the country as a whole yet. So what do you guys think of China? Do you think it's a good place to invest? Do you think that there's going to be a bubble? Financial crisis? Leave a comment down below. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next thing I want to talk about. There was a bunch of cyber attacks that came out today. A bunch of cyber attacks. So cyber attacks hit giant Russian oil companies, Ukrainian national banks, U.S. pharmaceutical institutions, and pretty much this is a very similar cyber attack to what happened in the UK healthcare system not too long ago, in the European healthcare systems that spread through multiple countries. And it's pretty much what happened was they were locking people out of their computers and demanded ransom money. That's the exact same thing that happened. And so this hit, Russian oil companies, Ukrainian national banks, U.S. pharmaceutical companies like Merck. I think Merck was one of them. And it was just another cyber attack. And so stocks fell. Cybersecurity stocks fell today. Near the end of today, they fell pretty dramatically. But what do you guys see? Here's the thing with cyber attacks is there's two things. A lot of the times, people blame the cybersecurity companies. That could be true. Now, there is a conspiracy theory out there that cybersecurity companies actually secretly create the viruses. I don't believe that's true. Could be. It could be, though. I'm open to that conspiracy theory. I'm open to it. However, a lot of the times, it's not the cybersecurity company's fault. It's like one person doesn't install the updated software, and then it spreads through the entire system. And is that the cybersecurity people's fault? Usually not. Usually it's because one dumbass downloads some file on Windows 97 or 98 and they leave their computer open, then they connect to Wi-Fi and bam, the entire system's down and it spreads through a bunch of companies that are connected to it. That's usually what happens. So, I mean, cybersecurity should find a way to, I agree with the point where, if you're getting paid millions of dollars to protect a company's information, you should flat out protect everything. You shouldn't allow any of this to happen under any circumstances. So you should find a way to protect it. Even if someone were to let a virus, you should find a way to stop it if you can. I know it's tough though. I used to be a computer geek back in the day, so I understand it's really hard to contain these kinds of things. But still, if you're getting paid millions of dollars for one company, you should probably figure out a way to prevent stuff like this from happening. So anyways, that happened today. Again, what do you guys think about it? Do you think it should have affected the markets like it did? And what would you do in that situation? Have you ever had ransomware enter your computer? It happened once for me. So essentially, I didn't even download anything. It was one of those browser ones where it automatically downloaded something for me. And then all of a sudden I was just locked out of my computer and saying, pay this, pay this, pay this, pay this, or else you're going to be reported to the police. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Luckily, they were messing with a guy who knows how to work with a computer. Or they're unlucky for them. I know how to work with a computer. Seriously, doesn't just reboot your computer, do it in safe mode. You can even have backups, whatever you want to do. If you have any sort of ransomware on your computer, just know that there will never, ever, ever, ever be a case where you will have a pop-up on your screen saying that you will go to jail unless you pay something. That'll never, ever happen. So if you're not good with computers, just take it into Apple. They'll figure it out for you. And even if you did something bad or were looking at some things you shouldn't be looking at, they're not going to report you to the police. All right, unless you have a ton of illegal, underage photos or something on there, they're not going to report you to the police. So anyways, we're going to move on here. We're going to move on to the stock market winners and losers today. So the winners, there weren't a lot. So the winners, in my mind, in terms of the big companies, were Walmart. They were a big winner today. They were up 0.7% today, pretty good. And the financial institutions. Financial sector as a whole was up 0.5% today, or let me see, I think it was 0.5% today. Just let me double check here quickly. They were up 0.51% today, which was pretty good. Now the losers of today were everyone else. almost everyone else. So big losers today. Netflix down 4.11%. Google was down 2.5% because of the scandal largely, and tech was just down as a whole today. The tech sector was down 1.67% today as a whole. Pretty big. Nvidia was down 3.66% today. So again, Nvidia took another tumble. What was I saying 2 weeks ago? You got other people online on YouTube saying Nvidia is the greatest company in the world. I don't see any signs that they're going to be losing money or losing value over the next few months. What do you know? It happened again. So Nvidia down ton today. And pretty much all other sectors are down today. I mean, we're talking about utilities were down today, telecom, real estate, materials, all consumer staples and discretionaries, industrials, healthcare, energy. I mean, everything was down today. Everything was down except for financials. Now, luckily, is it lucky? Is it lucky? I made some financial company investments. My last 2 trades have actually been in the financial sector, I think, or 2 of my last 3 trades were in the financial sector. So today, I don't know if I even had a loss today. I probably broke even today. Maybe I had a little bit of a loss today. Depends. I'll go check later. But if you want to check out what I traded in, stock market program in the link below. I'm doing, weekly, maybe once, twice, 3 times a week. I'll update you guys on what I'm investing in, what my gains were like, what my losses were like, and so on. So if you want to check out my portfolio, links in the description below. By the way, I started that account like, how many weeks ago? About 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And so I put in like, how much have I put in now? I think I put in roughly five and a half grand in the last month or so. And so returns have been okay so far. They've been pretty good. So if you want to check that out, links in the description below, stock market program. For now, that's going to wrap this up. If you have any other business stories you want me to talk about, leave a comment down below. What are your opinions on everything? Let me know. So thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people. I'll see you guys in the next video.